Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. Hey, welcome to the show. My name is Sean. I'm glad you're here. We're jumping right in today with the conversation we had recently with Alok Tayi. Alok is a businessman, a serial entrepreneur, a husband, and a father. Motivated by the experiences him and his wife faced with their daughter, Alok is using his business acumen and his passion to change the way rare disease drug development and research is approached. I must admit, on the surface, what Vibe Bio is doing is a bit complex. However, Alok breaks it down beautifully in an easy-to-understand conversation, and that's what he's doing for us today. I also find their website to be very helpful, and we'll be sure to link that in our show notes. Please enjoy our conversation with Vibe Bio co-founder Alok Tayi. Hello, thanks for joining us today. We've been looking forward to this conversation. We have so much to get into, but first, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's awesome to be here and happy to share both our story and what we're up to at Vibe Bio.
Well, as you probably know, a lot of our listeners are personally connected to the rare disease journey, either as patients themselves or caretakers. We even have scientists and clinicians and all kinds of people that tune in, thankfully. So would you mind starting with your personal story? What got you into the space that we're in today?
For sure. So my name is Alok Tayi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Vibe Bio. My background actually is as a scientist. I spent about 15 years at the bench doing research. But then mid last year, my wife and I were fortunate enough to have our first child. Though the pregnancy went okay, unfortunately, our daughter was born very sick and spent a long time in the hospital. One of the hardest parts about that experience was that the diseases that she had were somewhat common, the biology well understood, but unfortunately, there were no dedicated therapeutic options available to her. And as a consequence, she spent a long time suffering. I'm sure you can appreciate, and I feel like the listeners would appreciate as well, that having a child is a life-changing experience, but having one that's ill at birth, even more so. But when you're in the hospital, especially in the NICU, for quite a long period of time, you inevitably meet other families also who have sick loved ones there as well. And you start to form this bond, this community, through that shared experience. One thing certainly tied us all together, which was the fact that though we all had tremendous hope that a treatment could be developed for our loved ones, one of the common bottlenecks and gaps was actually financing those programs to get into a clinical trial. It was that realization amongst that community that led me to leave my work in the software and science world to actually start a biotech, and that biotech is Vibe. But unlike a traditional biotech, Vibe does some things that are really unique. First and foremost, at our core, we're a community of patients, scientists, and partners who help identify and vet treatments initially in the rare disease space. Second, we then actually help perform the drug development activities like clinical trials and manufacturing, but finance that work in innovative ways, namely through cryptocurrency token sales. I'm sure we'll probably talk about some of those details in a minute, but my journey to get to Vibe was really one that was born from personal experience, and one that motivated my wife and I, not only to try and find treatments for our own loved ones, but also to create an approach and an infrastructure by which we can empower other families and communities to also find treatments for the diseases that they care about.
So obviously you share quite a bit in there, and like you said, we'll unpack as we go. But I'm curious, when you and your wife sat in the corner of the waiting room or whatever it may be, and you decided let's start something. What was more, I guess, and forgive me if this is an unfair question, but what was more motivating? The fact that you knew a little bit about crypto and you thought, let's leverage a unique opportunity here? Or was it more of, okay, I'm a scientist by trade. I think I can help navigate the science. I'm curious, did one outweigh the other?
Hmm. It's a really great question, Sean. I think what really focused both of us, and my wife also happens to be a scientist, was the fact that our realization is that the challenge in developing treatments, especially in the rare disease space, is not finding a potential cure, but funding it.
Hmm.
And so it actually came down to one, trying to collate the best possible science, but then second, evaluating the current approaches for drug development for rare diseases and realizing that there are huge gaps and challenges that exist for many families and their communities to develop a treatment. So maybe in your framework, it would be more the latter than the former. And we just happen to identify crypto as the right technological solution to solve the problem that we cared the most about. Let me put you in the shoes of a family member who was just told that their kid was diagnosed by a rare disease. I'm sure many of us recognize that the number one choice is to go and collaborate with an existing pharmaceutical company to work on that disease. But for a variety of reasons, existing institutions often aren't aligned and also are focused on other larger scale diseases. That often relegates families to one, begging billionaires for donations, or relying on a myriad of bake sales. Vibe Bio believes that there's a better option. And so our search is really to empower patients, not profit or politics, to drive the next generation of drug development. And so it was very much rooted in that combination of both science and trying to find an approach that allows us to scale across the 10,000 plus rare diseases that are out there.
Can you share a little bit of how you said empower patients? Can you talk a little bit about how specifically Vibe is approaching this differently than the big pharma or the institutions that have been around for decades?
Yeah. So Vibe Bio seeks to provide patients and those affected by life-altering diseases, no matter how rare, with both a community and the power to pursue a cure. We also seek to provide them with unprecedented ownership and control of the process. We believe that manifests in two specific ways. The first is identifying and prioritizing which specific diseases should be pursued. In a given pharmaceutical or biotech company, that first step of prioritization often occurs at the executive management level or at the board level. And the optimizations, for right or wrong, often focus on the largest economic opportunities as opposed to those that have necessarily the highest unmet medical need. In our view, there is many diseases, right? 95% plus of rare diseases have no treatment today. And many of them actually, believe it or not, also have solid economic opportunities as well. So the first part of it, I think, is to help empower patients to help identify and vet potential treatments in the rare disease space and empower them to help prioritize which ones Vibe as an organization are going to pursue. Then second, after we actually start to pick up and pursue some of those individual drug development programs, those patient communities also have economic ownership and interest in those medicines, as we believe that they are the most critical stakeholder in actually bringing that medicine to patients at the end of the day. So those are the two facets of how we want to empower patients to be at the center of drug development, not profit or politics.
So does a patient buy this token, cryptocurrency, whatever it is, and now they're like a stakeholder or something that has some sort of ownership of the decisions that get made?
Yeah, it's a great question, Kyle. This is, I think, where we're going to dip more into sort of the crypto-enabled organizations. So I'll try and walk you through our approach and some of the constructs that make it a reality. So at the end of the day, Vibe Bio is building a community of patients, scientists, and partners. For those patients, and namely patient communities or patient charities that we go and partner with or want to be part of the community, we give them a certain number of Vibe tokens. Those Vibe tokens give them the opportunity to participate in this broader community and cast votes based on that ownership in terms of which drug development proposals and which programs we pursue. So what it allows us to do is ensure that, again, patients are at the center of the process, but also have a say not only in proposing proposals for their own disease areas, but also helping to vet, identify, and vote on the broader organization's initiatives and priorities. Once that community of patients, scientists, and partners have authorized a specific set of programs to be pursued with the funds in the organization, then we actually go and do the drug development work using our mix of internal and externalized resources, whereby the intellectual property, the medicines themselves, those specific patient communities will also have economic ownership in. So that's how we really see things evolving and how it allows us to empower patients and do so in a manner that doesn't require them to build their own biotech or raise tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, but also allows us to ensure that there is longevity and sustainability of the model over time.
So I imagine that a community would have a certain number of tokens. Can they buy more? Like, how does the percentage of ownership and the percentage of say in the decisions work? And
yeah, good question. So it's safe to say that there are many patient communities out there that we'd love to have as part of the community, the Vibe Bio community. There are 10,000 plus rare diseases out there based on a recent report from RareX. So we hope to bring in all the patient communities associated with those different diseases into our organization. We grant tokens, and about a quarter of all tokens that are manifested are actually given to patient communities and to empower them to vote. That is actually the largest constituent within our overall organization that's out there. So as a consequence, those are the communities, those patient communities that vote those tokens are able to then drive and inform which proposals are pursued and also put forth ones themselves. So this is the part that allows them to have that ownership and say, but then over time as well, ensure that patients truly can be an equal stakeholder, if not the largest stakeholder at the table, compared to those with just purely financial interest.
Wow, encouraging control of the patient community. That's pretty neat, pretty powerful.
We very much, are trying to live by our own values and see, especially in the rare disease space, that these patients and their communities, we believe, are superheroes. They have such tremendous determination and grit when it comes to developing a treatment for their disease, as well as the power to rally parents, loved ones, scientists, doctors, regulatory authorities to the table to help them in that mission. So we think by creating this crypto-enabled structure, we're able to bring a completely new source of capital to the table and also, again, provide them with unprecedented ownership and control of the process to hopefully be able to get more medicines across the line that are of interest to patients directly.
I'm curious. First of all, it's all mind-blowing. It's very exciting and just crazy at the same time. To play a little bit of devil's advocate or the skeptical parent or family out there, I heard you say it a couple times, not politics or profit. And to be fair, not to you specifically, but to, across the globe, I feel like that's a common message for anybody starting a thing, right? I'm not motivated, and then a few years down the road, the fruit really isn't growing well from the tree, or the proof in the pudding says otherwise. So I'm curious on that front, the skepticism side. how, what maybe parameters are you putting in place to help avoid falling into the trap of hundreds of millions of dollars flowing the way you, Alok, or a certain organization or a certain partner or a certain whatever might be dictating or at least trying to dictate?
It's an excellent question, Sean. And in the crypto world, we certainly see this as an active topic of discussion, namely organizational governance and how you ensure true decentralization. I think coming back to our approach, the largest stakeholder of tokens are actually patients and patient communities. And I think that is the first part that enables us to ensure that the appropriate perspective is balanced across the different parts of the stakeholders in the drug development ecosystem. I think it's safe to say that the current and traditional infrastructure amongst biotech and pharma companies is a little bit more finance leaning than it is necessarily patient leaning. The second part of it, I think, is ensuring that when we have proposals that are reviewed, in addition to patients and partners and scientists and investors all providing their feedback and input, we have a set of committees that are staffed by drug development experts who are also helping to score and weigh in on these proposals. Their responsibility is not to say which ones should be funded, but instead to rate them on a variety of criteria that are critical for those candidate medicines to be successful. Safety and regulatory, a business plan, as well as clinical development milestones, scientific feasibility, etc. We simply want to ensure that we're pursuing the best possible science and that there is simply a credible path for the initial investment to return back to the organization, such that we can then continue the model and ensure sustainability. So that's, I think, how we're starting to ensure that the long-term mission of this organization stays true. First, by keeping, again, the patients at the center as the largest constituent. Second, bringing drug development experts to the table to ensure that we're scoring and reviewing these proposals for the best possible science. But I think also as an organization, and why I'm really excited to be here on Two Disabled Dudes, is because we want to build a community of the right type of stakeholders. I believe like attracts like, and if we truly are being honest about our mission and behaving that way, I think we'll recruit and attract individuals who are also similarly minded, and I think that will also ensure the longevity of our project. I often draw an interesting example for those of you who are sports fans to the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers is actually, I believe, the only NFL team that is actually community owned by over hundreds of thousands of individual owners. And you bet those citizens and season ticket holders, as an example, that right to have season tickets is considered a generational responsibility, where no matter how good or bad the team does, you never sell your tickets. You pass them down from generation to generation as a rite of passage. And I think there is something similar that we hope to build as a community, where if we work hard together, we develop medicines together, we espouse the benefits of this approach together, I hope that we can create a similar culture within Vibe and the Vibe Bio community as well.
All right. I have one more question based on my very, very limited knowledge of crypto, but, we see or hear, I listen to the radio in the morning and I hear, Bitcoin went down by like 25,000 points or like something, right? And, it went way up. And so how does Vibe, how does the budget and whatever respond to those huge swings in the crypto world?
Yeah, it's an awesome question, and definitely one that we've thought of from day one, given how high potential, high growth projects tend to go up and down. However, I'll take a quick step back and actually highlight that if you actually look at from the peak of 2021 to the trough of 2022, the XBI, which is a collection of biotech stocks, itself has actually been down about 60 to 70%. So what we've actually seen is that it's not just crypto that sort of goes up and down, but actually as interest rates have started to go up, a lot of high potential, high growth sectors, crypto and biotech alike, have actually been negatively impacted by those macro conditions. Our view is that disease doesn't care about macro. It's going to do what it does, and we have to create resilient and scalable infrastructure to empower patients to go and pursue treatments for the disease that they care about. So I want to just highlight that, first, there are broader macro issues at play that impact even the traditional biotech infrastructure. And SVB actually came out with an interesting report about a month ago that showed that if you extrapolate through the end of 2022, rare disease early stage venture financing is actually down approximately 70% from 2020 to 2022. Clearly, something needs to change. So we think this unique approach of leveraging cryptocurrency token sales allows us to bring $1 trillion pool of capital to the table that is looking for high potential, high growth projects like early stage drug development. The way we gird against some of the broader volatility in the market is that when we sell our cryptocurrency token, we sell it actually for cash. And so we build up a balance sheet that is actually denominated in dollars. So though the broader crypto markets may have some interim volatility, just like the stock market does, we still have the same quantity of dollars that we can invest for a given period of time. So it allows us to be prudent and sort of ride the waves of the broader market. And we're really fortunate that as part of our first tranche of financing a few months ago, we raised $12 million led by Initialized Capital, one of the top Silicon Valley VC funds. And so are now leveraging that capital to invest in both our infrastructure as well as high potential drug development programs.
Glad you mentioned that, because that was one of the questions I have on my list. Besides, that's a big deal. Congratulations first on that, getting the support of the VC. But I'm curious, is there anything else you can share? Any either current status or accomplishments? Are patients able to go out and buy your tokens yet? Where are you at right now? And what are some of the accomplishments you've experienced since you and your wife and others involved have really started to run with this concept?
For sure. Well, Josh, my co-founder, Josh Foreman, and I started Vibe Bio effectively at the beginning of the year. In addition to raising $12 million in financing, we're also really excited to launch 2 partnerships with 2 different patient communities focused on fatal and rare diseases. One is with NF2 Biosolutions, which is a neuro-oncology related indication. The other with Chelsea's Hope, which is focused on Lafora disease, a fatal neurological disease that often leads to death within a handful of years of diagnoses. These are 2 really good examples of patient communities that have rallied around finding a treatment for their diseases, but often have hit roadblocks with traditional pharmaceutical institutions and other biotechs and have struggled to have any reasonable treatment today. In both those cases of those partnerships that we announced, we're actively working to in-license and develop the intellectual property to develop treatments for those programs, and hope to have some really exciting announcements to share in the coming months. So I think those are really great sort of lighthouse examples of how patient communities can partner with Vibe and how we're truly putting our money where our mouth is and showing real progress and results. And again, providing those families and communities with a shot on goal. So I think those are some really great examples. Our team is now about 9 or 10 people. We're also looking to launch our token in 2023. The token can't be purchased just yet. And again, patient communities and those charities are given tokens for free. They're not asked ever to purchase them. So if there's interest in collaborating with Vibe Bio or learning more about what we're doing, I highly recommend that the audience visit vibebio.com. That's VIBEBIO.com. Or also visiting us on Twitter at vibe_bio. We'd love to hear from anyone in the community, whether you're a scientist, a patient advocate, or an investor. We'd love to be able to build as large and vibrant a community as possible to initially tackle this set of problems in the rare disease space.
Look, I think it's really admirable and needed in our community just how your personal story feeds the mission and purpose of Vibe Bio. We all know that those things, the personal connections, are the most important thing. And to rely on that to help you form your company to serve the patient community, I think that's remarkable. So thank you.
Well, it's very kind of you. It's folks like yourselves and those in the patient community that motivate us every day. This is my third startup company, albeit my first biotech specifically. And we all know that there's ups and downs in your professional life. But I'd say, to date, and I should knock on wood here, the lows at Vibe haven't been nearly as low as other endeavors, in part because when you work virtually or figuratively side by side with patients, you have this deep motivation, commitment, and reminder to why we do what we do. And I think whether it comes to recruiting great talent in terms of scientific expertise or software engineers or community members, having that reminder and having that proximity to the patient is a really powerful and motivating factor. So really, it's I who should be thanking you and the broader rare disease community for both the inspiration and the support in what we're trying to accomplish. I'll acknowledge we are at the early days and have a lot that we need to accomplish and a lot that we need to prove. But my hope is that if we can even get one medicine across the line to help some patient community, I'll be able to die happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're excited that you and those you're partnering with are on a mission and a part of the community that unfortunately we're all a part of, but thankfully we have each other and the community just keeps chipping away at all the different challenges that we face on a regular daily basis. So look, thank you for joining us today and sharing all about Vibe Bio and a little bit of your personal story as well.
Yeah. Sean and Kyle, it's been a pleasure, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Would love to come back again soon, perhaps as we've made more progress, and invite everyone who's listening today to join in the conversation and visit us at vibebio.com. Thank you so much.
Kyle, I don't know about you, but I feel like Alok just simplified everything that we talked about today. I went into it a little nervous, a little worried that, man, I'm really not smart in some areas.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate Alok's the patience and the time he took to explain. And man, what an incredible wealth of experience and knowledge he has from not just, not only being a dad and a scientist, but smart on the business side with the experience of building and creating some things that work. So
yeah,
I really enjoyed that conversation.
I feel like it's a joke, like how complicated explaining cryptocurrency is. But I appreciate him at least giving us a glimpse into a little further understanding of what the heck it is.
Absolutely. A big thank you to Alok for joining us today. Speaking of thanks, for those who listen regularly, you know that Kyle and I believe in gratitude, and we make it a point to share a note of thanks at the end of every episode. So today, I'm saying thank you to coworkers. We recently had a bit of a chaotic cluster of a situation. We lost power in the store my office is in. Lasted a few seconds longer than normal, right? Because we have backup generators that kick on, somewhat automatically. Mm-hmm. But it just felt weird. So I'm like, okay, it's actually been pitch black longer than normal. And then it eventually started to kick on. But then it was not 100%. It was, say, 60%. And of that 60% of power, we would lose 20% of it every 20 seconds. Like, it was flickery. Whoa. It was inconsistent. It was bizarre. Yeah. And specifically, the registers just started to power down one at a time every 3 minutes. So it was like we thought we had enough to get the crowd through the doors, but then we just, one thing after another just kept going wrong. And not too far, our VP of New Store Development was nearby. So he's a handyman, not handyman, but just a brilliant
Problem solver.
I don't even know what you call it. Just, yeah, problem solver, knows how to build things, knows how to... he's the MacGyver of our company, if you will. And he was nearby, so he immediately came over and just was present, just trying to do whatever he could. And I just realized that the entire team, although frustrated, I was just impressed with the way the team carried themselves. And we're talking everybody, from the newest, bagger to the most experienced VP. Everybody was just cool, calm, collective, and did whatever we could to protect the business, but also help our guests have a good experience, even in the midst of chaos.
Yeah, you really find out what your team is made of in times of extreme pressure like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think just for a little bit of reference, it wasn't a 20-minute fiasco. It was a little over 2 hours.
Wow.
So it was crazy. Kyle, who's your thank you note going out to this episode?
I want to say thank you to an organization that we both know in Idaho. In Ketchum, Idaho, there's an organization called Higher Ground, and they're an accessible sports organization. And they came out and rode with us. There was only a couple people that came out, but it was really nice that they came out and showed that they value what we're doing. On the last day of our Ride Wild, we rode into Ketchum, Idaho, and they rode with us for, 15 miles or something. And it was just really nice that they came out and showed their support.
Not only fun, but there's an infusion of energy when you get some new people. Even though their legs are much more fresh than yours, or even their hands if they're hand cycling, it's just fun to have some new faces join, even if it is just 15 miles or so.
Yeah, I found myself pushing a little bit harder to keep up. Then I was like, wait, I've been on the road for 23 days. They just got here. Anyway.
They just woke up. I do want to, since you mentioned them, and like you said, we both have had great experiences with them. They're phenomenal people. For those folks that are in Idaho, I do want to encourage you to check out highergroundusa.org. We'll be sure to link them in our show notes, especially for folks interested in being outdoors, but maybe have some mobility issues. They're an accessible adventure sort of organization that is really doing some pretty cool stuff in that region. So, Kyle, thank you. Thank you to Alok again for being here. If you are enjoying the show, please share it with others. We often talk about community, and even podcasts like this and different efforts only work well and only thrive when other people are finding connection in the community. So we never know who might need to hear something encouraging along their challenging journey. Be sure to check out our show notes. You can visit the website for that, twodisableddudes.com, or visit the show notes area of the podcast app you are using. We look forward to talking with you again next week. Until then, keep living with urgency.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This show is possible with your support. Visit twodisableddudes.com to donate.
Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app.